Lies of P is getting difficulty options to make the Souls-like more accessible. Game will offer 3 levels of difficulty for the base game and the expansion to try to increase the number of players who can enjoy the game. Yeah, I mean, it feels like this conversation's been going on for so long, and I think everyone's kind of done with it. I think we've exhausted all forms of conversation around this specific, almost like aspect of these games, especially Souls-like games keep getting all the attention on this, but like I think it's just such a microscopic conversation. We need to expand some of the thinking on it so we can just collectively move past it as a whole. I think in general, like whether let's take Lies of P for example, whether it gets difficulty options or it doesn't get difficulty options, right? I think it's always been like a one-way conversation, either players being like, you have to do this, you have to not have difficulty options, or you must have difficulty options for me. In the same way, there's kind of the current narrative of, the developers believe that it must have difficulty options, or it shouldn't have difficulty options to preserve the vision of the game, right? Like overall, like whether they do get difficulty options or they don't, you have the right to disagree or agree with it, and you should be able to speak up and say what you don't appreciate or enjoy from games. You should be able to be heard, and overall, like players, like we're all just a part of a game's development now, from when it's announced to when it comes out to when it finally, goes into the long night. I don't know. Sounds like we're killing the game. um, yeah, I mean, like, I think there's been a kind of always a one-sided narrative of like people who don't agree with what I think about this game, they don't deserve respect or something like that. But you deserve respect, and you deserve a healthy space here to enjoy your favorite hobby, overall. And so does everyone else. In the same way, there needs to be, even though we're kind of connected to the devs who are making these games, and they're thinking about us as they're making this game, whether in little ways or big ways. But at the same time, we need to have healthy space and between us playing the game and the people making the games. They have the right to make their own decision as they're making it. The things that they're thinking about as they're making it can be all over the place. It can be like trying to think about, okay, who's going to be playing the game, right? We need to prioritize like these types of people, or these types of people who play the game. Like, do we go after really hardcore Souls-like games players who have like played all the every single Souls game since it came out? Probably, because that's like a big chunk of their audience, right? But at the same time, they're also trying to think like, as they're making the game, what do I believe is important for this game, whether it's Lies of P or a different kind of game coming out. In the same way you're thinking about it as you're playing it, like, what do I think is the best thing about this game, and what do I wish they had in this game? It like, I think by now the nature of game development has become more and more transparent. People have become more and more educated on how it kind of works, because all this like media and things are spinning up and getting people into understanding how games are made. And I think we know by now it's quite a complex ecosystem fit within some kind of quite limited budget to accomplish any given game at any time. And these kind of factors, whether it's like prioritizing these kinds of people who are playing it, or trying to understand what they think is important for it, creatively or not, and trying to fit it all within that kind of budget, that may conflict with what you like or need to be able to even experience the game at all. Like, for example, like I really like the idea of 4X games. Like as an idea, like I really like the idea of games like Stellaris, and I really like the idea of games like Endless Space 2 and Endless Legend, and just, I guess, sci-fi and sci fantasy stuff. But, or let's just say Civilization, right? I really like the idea of being able to play Civilization, be like a mastermind taking over the world, and playing kind of a chilled out step-by-step game. But the reality of when I try to play those games is that I just get so overwhelmed with the amount of kind of options and angles and things to play, and the insane amounts of kind of deep systems that are in those games, that also what makes them so awesome and what is pulling me in the first place. I go, it would be great to be a mastermind, but actually I have like 2 brain cells to rub together at this time. And, it's just, I just kind of back out after a couple of turns, or after, the pirates have an uprising in Stellaris and just run over my whole empire. And it's not like that happens every time I try to play it or anything. Please take pity on me. Yeah, so it's just kind of not for me at that time, but I may come back to it, or, I may mod it to, I don't know, appeal to me and turn it into an FPS one day. Who knows? The other thing is, like, in the way the developers of these games are in the same shoes as you are. Most of the time, you hear about all the things that get cut from certain games before they came out, whether it's whole levels, storylines, characters, or like a crazy mechanic. Imagine, the original like Dark Souls. What if they were planning on having like a grappling hook put into the game or something like that? There's going to be people who are like, oh my God, that would have made it the best thing ever. It's a grappling hook, bro. But, that ended up being cut for whatever reason. They just couldn't get it in there, or it just wasn't the right decision at the time. But there's still a certain part of them that's like, man, I just wish Dark Souls had a grappling hook. Now someone's going to have to go and make that. I think I really want to play that. Yeah, so they kind of get put in your shoes as well. It's like they don't get everything that they wanted as a part of the game. It's all kind of the same, in the end. But I think that, putting these walls up and painting each other as like a enemy, I think is what's kind of causing that real disconnect between games, just, not really being made for people to kind of enjoy in the end. And the more that we can try to break those down and kind of respect that sometimes, it's really great when games are, line up with what I like, but sometimes they won't. But that's what makes them great. Games are made by people, they're enjoyed by people. Sometimes we agree and disagree. It's sort of imperfect. So I'm not saying that there's not going to be like a time to get up in arms about things. And there's certainly going to be people who are more, singled out as a part of any kind of development in a game. And but I think that we can always have the back and forth conversation, but I think it should be expanded to not be necessarily so one-sided or microscopic, because we all know that everyone likes to rage bait everything online, and it just becomes kind of boring, to be honest, to just hear about the same decade-old conversation, just to try to provoke a kind of vitriolic opinion or something online. I guess really connect it between, what the people that are enjoying these games, and the people who are making them. I think that overall it will just lead to just better quality games, more fun, and really feeling like you're kind of a part of the game. Essentially, you'll kind of get something that's actually made for you in a way. By understanding each other, I think games can only be made better and better, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what they want. They want, people want you to go out and buy the game, and they want you to play it and enjoy it. I don't think that's ever changed, over time. I mean, it's a different topic if we're talking about monetization, right? If we have that healthy conversation about what works in games and what can sometimes, make it harder for people to enjoy them without having it go too far one way or another, without completely ruling out one side or the other, then the more that games can just be improved, and we can just enjoy playing the game together, I guess.